Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Omega Seamaster Professional Diver 300-meter chronometer. You can see this circa Y2K, Omega reference 2254.50.00, and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see this modern Omega Classic with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Omega Seamaster Professional Diver 300-meter. Now this watch is, in every physical sense, a duplicate of the famed Bond watch. It has the same physical footprint on the wrist. It is mechanically identical. The bezel mechanism and the helium escape valve all transfer over. What this watch has is a very different and more functionally adept approach to styling the dial and the bezel, as well as a more robust 3-link bracelet rather than the multi-link bracelet seen on the Bond. In every respect, this is the one to buy if you want the maximum tool watch from Millennial Omega. Let's talk about how it fits. Now, 41 millimeters across the round of the case, not including the helium escape valve, the crown, or the crown guards. It fits like the famed Bond. It also fits flat. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it feels like a metal limpet, truly low slung. This could easily be a dress watch at 11.8 millimeters thick with a generously sloped case flank and conical bezel. This would slide not just beneath a suit jacket cuff, but also beneath the dress sleeve underneath that. I would also say that lug-to-lug, if you were to put this on a strap, you could wear it on an incredibly small wrist, as the distance across the wrist from case flank to case flank is 47.5 millimeters. So if you want to take it off the bracelet, this would be viable on a 13.5 centimeter circumference wrist. I would recommend 14 centimeters circumference bare minimum to wear it with the bracelet, which does extend it thanks to the span of the solid end links. It becomes 52.5 millimeters across the wrist. It's hefty and substantial. It holds its own against the Rolex Submariner from the period, thanks in large part to the fact that the bracelet is just a more durable and substantial, as well as somewhat burlier looking piece than the Bond style multi-link. You can see 3 links, polished flanks to the center links, polished outer shoulders, satin finished for the most part to prevent excessive glare. There's a handsome contrast between the polish and the satin elements. The clasp was a revelation when it came out in the early 1990s because it was so solid, feeling as though it were machined from a billet. It put Rolex's stamped clasps of the time to shame. The triggers ensure that it stays closed until you want it open, and then there's a pull-out extension that allows you to fit the watch over a dry suit or a wetsuit, and if you want to put it over a winter coat or a sweater, I've done exactly that, using my own example. In terms of the interaction with the case, the solid end links do give the watch a little bit of a Rolex look about its flanks, but only there. The case design is distinctive and distinctively Omega, in large part because of the immense polished bevels that flare about the end of the lug. This is something that's been characteristic of many Omega Seamaster and Speedmaster family members since roughly the mid-1960s, and it provides a handsome contrast with the sheer side, which is all of a horizontal satin finish. The helium escape valve is present and correct for saturation divers, capability you may never need, but then again, I've always said, especially in regard to this series of watch, that luxury is about getting more than you pay for. Otherwise, it's just a fun conversation starter. Now the bezel. The bezel is more legible than the Bond variant, thanks to the higher contrast between the polish of the indices and numerals and the black anodized base. You line up the luminescent index with the broadsword style minute hand, and now you've got an impromptu 0 to 60 minute timer. I always prefer a dive bezel to a real chronograph for all timing that amounts to less than 1 hour, because it's simply easier to reference a hand and a pearl radially than it is to reference a small sub-register counting the minutes. It's simply easier to read 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes elapsed on a dive bezel. Plus you have lower servicing costs down the line. In terms of the feel, this is a very mechanical bezel. The detents, they have a remarkable report. If I were to cover my ears and put a white noise machine in the room, I could probably still feel and hear, certainly feel, probably hear, because the ratchet action is so robust. Now, it's a little bit of a double-sided sword. You want to set it before you get in the water because it is so robust. There's more resistance to actually turning it than you'll conventionally find with a diver. I'll also say that the edges aren't knurled the way you'll find on some contemporary Seamaster Professionals or even Rolex Submariner and Sea Dweller models, so it is a little bit difficult to turn the bezel once it becomes wet or your hands become sweaty. So set it and then forget it, not the other way around. The watch has an immensely luminescent dial. Now you can see the famed Omega Seamaster wave pattern is present and correct about the base of the dial. You'll also note how it disappears from most angles. If you're not 100% sold on it, rest assured the rest of the virtues of the watch outweigh that small peccadillo of the dial. I happen to love it, and there's a reason why Omega brought it back for the 25th anniversary of the model in 2018. People adore it, but this one is more subtle than on the equivalent blue dial Bond watch, so just know that. In terms of the weight of the Luminova and the amount used, much more than the Bond. The indices are larger. The hands are broadsword and fully loomed rather than the spindly skeleton used on the Bond model. Just for reference, if you've never heard that term Bond model, I'm talking about the reference 2531. So that's the one to check out just so you can compare and contrast. This is both more legible during the day because of the amount of lume used on a black base, as well as at night, and there will be a spectacular lume shot at the end of this video. Now the watch features a chronometer grade ETA 2892A2 doing business as the Omega caliber 1120. This is the later one. It is not the prior version. This is the 44-hour versus 42 for the standard 2892A2. If you're wondering about the prior version, I'm talking about the caliber 1109 that was used in the first S&P 300-meter chronometers up till about 1996. This was used, the 1120, after 96 to the phase out of this family pre-coaxial. 44 hours of power reserve versus 42 for the standard 2892. It features 23 joules because it's a little bit more complex than the 21 joule standard 2892. Beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour or 4 hertz. You can see it features hacking or stop seconds. It also features a quick set date, so you can rapidly correct the date should it run down. Of course, being COSC standard, it is adjusted like a chronometer. It is a very precise piece, a very fine piece, a very tough piece, as I once wore one of these watches and crashed it while riding a bike, and the watch came off better than I did, so you get both chronometer precision and sports watch toughness. 300 meters water resistant thanks to the screwed-in caseback, screw-down helium escape valve, and screw-down crown. This is a watch that hits on all cylinders. A celebrated caliber, a celebrated profile, arguably more functional as a dive watch than the best-known variant, and also comparatively scarce compared to the more common so-called Bond watch. You can see this Omega Seamaster Professional 300-meter diver and buy it on our website. And I'm back. Omega Seamaster Professional Diver 300-meter, reference 2254.50.00. Robustly luminescent, you can even see the small migrating pip of the seconds hand. See it in the light of day and make it yours on our website.